You need to also be mindful of your emotional state when the conflict arises. So if I'm still very emotional and feeling hurt and angry and all of those emotions, that's not the right time for us to speak.
So sometimes language, the types of words you use, and like Nonhlanhla was saying, gaslighting. Sometimes people are very selective on the language use and the word use so that they evoke a specific reaction because they're trying to direct the conversation to a specific direction because they already know what stance they have and what they're trying to achieve by talking to you. There's a difference in saying, don't talk to me because I'm depressed. It's saying to your partner, okay, my partner, I suffer from depression. And when I get depressed, I get withdrawn, I get avoidant, and it's difficult for me to engage in a productive, for us to have a productive engagement after that.
When we're talking of isiZulu sasemakhaya, we're speaking of, indoda, inhloko yomuzi, and whether you disagree or you agree, the man has the final say. That's how it's supposed to be.
How do we, one, healthily then communicate that when you leave your shoes, it makes me feel unloved because but also sometimes I don't even know that I associate cleanliness with.
You don't know.
I don't know. So how do I then communicate the fact that I'm frustrated? Why are you leaving your shoes? Because for you, it might not be like a big deal. Like if they bother you, pick them up. No, they don't bother me, so leave them. You know what I mean? Because people fight over things like that. And people divorce over things like that. Welcome to yet another episode of The Wellness. I am Nonhlanhla Tshinyani and I'm your host for today. And today we have a very interesting topic. We're going to be talking about conflict and communication within relationships, right? And specifically romantic relationships between couples. Our wellness ace. So what do you think about that? How do people primarily sort out conflict?
With the conflict partner. So I think like we having like a lot of what can I say, Nje? Like we're having a lot of things around the relationships. I have so much to ask with our professionals here. So there's just so much to ask. I mean, from people, from the misconceptions that we're getting from the streets, from the misconceptions that we get from like couples, people who are looking forward to get married, and people who are also in marriage. So I think like it would be very much great for us to give our professionals to give us, we can just give them the platform so that they can advise us.
Okay, today in studio we have two beautiful women who happen to be experts in this topic. So we have our social worker, Nonhlanhla Tshinyani, and she will be telling us all about what she does, and she's a social worker for today.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you. So can you tell us more about what you do?
Okay, as she has mentioned, my name is Nonhlanhla Tshinyani. And I'm a clinical social worker, also an imago therapist, meaning that it's a course that you do additionally so that you can be a specialist in relationships. So my areas of interest is couples, families, adolescents, and youth.
So you said it's imago
therapy.
What does that entail? I've never heard of that in my life. You know what? I realized on this podcast, so myself and our wellness is healthcare professionals, and there's so many terms that we are coming across that we've never heard of before. So what is imago therapy?
Okay, imago therapy is a course or therapy style or technique that you use with relationships in general, but mostly it's about couples. But couples come with children, and then there's a whole family dynamic that is happening there. But it's mostly about romantic relationships. But obviously we have children that are developing. How will the relationship, if it gets dissolved, how is it going to affect the children, their developmental stages and things like that. So basically that is imago therapy.
Okay. And I know usually when we are talking about relationships, right, we are told communication is one of the biggest determining factors of the success of that relationship, right? So are there different communication styles, and why is communication important in romantic relationships?
Yes, there are different communicating styles, and it also depends on every couple. Everyone is unique.
Sure.
We can't just treat all the couples with one blanket. But in Imago specifically, we usually talk about conscious communication or a dialogue, conscious dialogue.
Sure.
Whereby now you don't listen to respond, but you listen to get what the other person is saying, validate their feelings, be empathetic, don't make them feel like now they're crazy. It helps you to avoid things like gaslighting, and so that you can just be empathetic and just be in a dance and be in a moment. Don't just speak as if we are just driving somewhere. If there's an issue, it doesn't matter how small it is or how big it is, but it has these small elements that you can practice on your daily basis. Just like saying, pass me that a glass of water. You can just use mirroring and just ask me, okay, I hear you say you want me to pass you a glass of water. That way I feel heard. And then you can respond by giving me a glass of water. But obviously, we are talking about deeper things that
Sure.
couples would be talking about, that it would be easy for them to misunderstand each other.
I think later on in our podcast, we're going to have a role-playing session because I'm very, very interested in some of the concepts that you've mentioned. You mentioned gaslighting, and that's something that is well used now. When someone talks, you're gaslighting me. So I really want to see what that looks like. And you also mentioned mirroring. You mentioned a lot of concepts that I would like us to actively practice so we can give our listeners and our viewers a practical example of what that looks like.
Yeah.
Okay. And thank you so much for that beautiful introduction. And our second guest is the beautiful Sphesihle Boyce, who's our clinical psychologist. Would you please introduce yourself for us?
Hi, thank you. Also, thank you for the opportunity. So my name is Sphesihle Boyce. I'm a clinical psychologist. I currently opened a practice and I'm the managing director. It's called Mindworks Practice. We are based in Pretoria, Louis Pasture. So our work focuses largely on psychotherapy for individuals, for adolescents, for couples. And we do a lot of corporate work with regards to employee wellness, building, and skills development as well. So that's what we do. We've been in business for how long now? A couple of months, 8 months?
Listen, long enough.
Long enough. Prior to that, I was working as a clinical psychologist, but for government. And I think I felt like I'd served my purpose in that space. And I wanted to challenge myself more. So I figured, well, nothing is more challenging than deciding you want to get your bread and butter every day.
Yes.
So then I transitioned to private practice.
Beautiful. We love it. We love ourselves an independent women. So I wanted to actually ask this. I know a lot of people say, listen, one of my deal breakers is a bad communicator, right? We say it a lot. So what are your deal breakers? No, cheating and bad communication, right? So what does that look like? And what are some of the communication barriers that people in relationships face?
So communication barriers vary from a basic thing of language. And people take that for granted because you think we're all speaking English, but it gets lost in translation. So sometimes language, the types of words you use. And like Nonhlanhla was saying, gaslighting. Sometimes people are very selective on the language use and the word use so that they evoke a specific reaction because they're trying to direct the conversation to a specific direction because they already know what stance they have and what they're trying to achieve by talking to you. So the language you use also goes a long way into creating barriers to actually have a conducive engagement with someone that's going to be productive and both of you leave the conversation feeling like I've been heard. Other things become like psychological factors. Am I in an emotional state where I'm able to actually listen to you and hear you and understand you, or want to be inclined to even engage with you for that matter? Am I in a psychological state where I'm able to consciously like process, okay, this person is talking? Because remember, communication is not just verbal. It's non-verbal as well. So if you have barriers, someone might be saying something, but because you're also missing the non-verbal cues, you will miss the entirety of what they're trying to say to you. So we have to be aware of that. Is the person, I know the person I'm talking to. I know they might have a psychological illness. Are they stable? And then other things can be culture, society, and a variety of other issues, and the individual themselves. What perceptions do I carry on a day-to-day? And how do I see myself, others, and the world? And all of those factors come into play as to then impacting how you effectively communicate with someone.
It's actually very interesting that communication is not as simple as sending a message to someone and them receiving it. So what I wanted to know is something that Uspe mentioned, but please feel free, Nonhlanhla, to jump in, about societal and cultural factors also playing a role in communication, right? I want to take it a step further and talk about nature versus nurture, right? Because society and culture is more nurture, right? So I want to actually talk about nature. There are particular, I think, instances that affect how people communicate. Like someone that, say, was, I don't know if you're born with narcissism, or I'm not sure. We'll cover that, right? But I know mental health also has an effect on communication, right? So how then do we know if it's a nature thing or if we know if it's a nurture thing? Because I think if it's more nurture, you can tweak it a bit, right? But if it's something that you're innately born with, can you be innately born with a certain communication style?
I would say a lot of things are learned.
Sure.
Maybe how you respond might be somewhat a mix of both. Let's not confine it, because everything has a play with nurture and nature in how it occurs. And I say this because, for example, you might be born predisposed
okay.
to a mental issue, i.e., let's say depression. And we know depression has coping mechanisms. Some include avoidance, withdrawal, and you understand, and that it's because of the diagnosis. But now, just because the diagnosis you're predisposed and nature also triggered it doesn't mean you can't learn and unlearn to communicate. So people tend to do this thing of shifting accountability to it's because I'm sick, it's because I have a condition, it's because today I'm depressed and whatnot. I was depressed. But now that explains, I always tell people, that explains the action. It doesn't justify it. There's a difference.
So it explains the behavior, but doesn't justify. But now I don't want to talk because I'm not feeling up for it today because I'm feeling a little bit depressed. Does that justify me not wanting to talk? I don't want to talk. And don't talk to me also. I don't want to talk. Don't talk to me because I'm feeling a little bit depressed. And there's a lot of people that feel like that. That when I feel a particular way, my partner mustn't communicate with me.
Are you supposed to be depressed all the time? Or maybe on specific days? How does it work? Like it's just a question that I'm throwing.
We must communicate it. But now I can't communicate it. Then what?
But now there's a difference in saying, don't talk to me because I'm depressed. It's saying to your partner, okay, my partner, I suffer from depression. And when I get depressed, I get withdrawn, I get avoidant, and it's difficult for me to engage in a productive, for us to have a productive engagement after that. So for you, it might help us if you can notice, because sometimes when people have, when their psychiatric conditions come up, they're not aware sometimes of how they're then engaging and how that is affecting their relationships. So then communicating with your partner, letting them know, this is who I am, this is my diagnosis, I do get treatment, but sometimes you understand treatment is effective and it comes in waves. So letting a partner know then makes them able to say, okay, I can see my partner is currently depressed. They're in a depressive phase, and having a conversation about this right now is not going to be conducive for the relationship. Remember, this is about relationships, not just about the individual.
Yes.
So having that is then, I will help you, but we still have an issue pending. But I'm just going to create an environment where then you are okay and I am okay for us to have a conversation. And I think it's what
Nonhlanhla.
your therapeutic
Oh,
process.
imago therapy.
Imago therapy, like what you were saying
Yes.
about it. Yes.
Yeah, so I just wanted to also to add the importance of getting the right diagnosis in the first place, and then also the right treatment.
Yes.
And then the partner, your parents or whoever are now come as a support system. So it's very important to also get them to have psycho education. So what we normally do, or what I normally do, if a patient is here and then they are diagnosed, I know that I can't terminate the therapy sessions without inviting the family, so that we can do psycho education on them, so that they know when she wakes up like this, it means it's an episode. Or when she speaks like this, okay, we know what to do. And then that also helps them to also educate themselves even further and more about the diagnosis, because there are many people walking around who are not diagnosed.
And self-diagnosed.
Yes,
There's a lot of people that are walking
yes.
around self-diagnosed. And with that as well, there's a lot of people walking around with, but this is how I communicate. When I'm angry, I say what I... Oh, and my favorite one, yeah, I'm not rude, I'm just blunt. You know, I'm not rude, I'm just blunt. Or yeah, if you don't want the truth, don't ask. You know, we have all these, I think, toxic ideologies when it comes to communication, and they also seep into our relationships, where someone feels like, but I can be considerate and kind until I get upset. Then obviously there'll be conflict within relationships. Right, so my question then becomes, how do we move from, but this is how I am, this is how I communicate, take it or leave it, to how do I meet my partner halfway, with or without a psychological diagnosis, just normal conversations, because communication gets really heated. People say things, people get to, guys, we live in South Africa, GBV is a real thing. People start hitting each other, stabbing, it gets really, really hectic, right? And all because of communication. I'm not hearing you, you're not hearing me. I don't know what happens in between, but
yeah. But I think just before that question is answered, I just have, I might have missed the point when you're speaking about I have depression. That statement of saying I have depression, when we're making that statement of saying I don't want to talk, saying I have depression all the time. Let's just suppose you not feeling well today. Is the statement saying I have depression not maybe a problem? Because I think I personally have a problem with that, saying I have depression. Rather, maybe not like say I am not feeling well today, and then we can work around that instead of saying all the time I have depression, I have depression.
But what if I'm having a depressive episode? I know I'm having a depressive episode, but say I'm diagnosed and I know I'm having a depressive episode, and I know, so I can't say I have a depressive episode.
I'm just against the word.
You know, I mean, like,
I'm just against the word depression. Yeah,
I get it too, but now I can't say I'm having a depressive episode.
But
I can't
you see now,
utter those words.
when
we're not
on the topic of
suppressing that.
communication, now you see me.
I always represent the streets, guys. I always represent the general public.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I know someone would come and say, but it's happening. What must I do? I can't say it.
In my opinion, I honestly have a problem with that, saying I have depression. But then I think like a better word would be maybe starting to say like, baby, I am not feeling well, and then you can continue to explain why and stuff. But instead of just using the word depression, because I think it comes to now having to abuse the word a lot, you know.
But now you're telling me how to communicate my state
No,
of...
when you say now I am depressed, you are also cutting off the people who are also supposed to now support you. We are just depressed, so she's depressed, let's leave
Yeah.
But if you say I'm not feeling like talking or I'm feeling down, then it opens a door so that people can also just ask how are you feeling. Then that's also part of support, where you can just describe to them, I feel like crying, I feel like being in my room, instead of people assuming that you are moody or whatever. So if you are saying I have a depressive mode or I'm depressed, now everyone will just say, she's depressed.
But leave me alone.
Yes.
Okay.
So you're just shutting people off to say, leave me alone. It's one of those days. But if now you are saying, this is how I'm feeling, then it's a continuous conversation. We don't also want to only talk about it on the day when we are just feeling depressed, but they will know the details to say, when she says she's not feeling well, she wants to be alone, she wants to eat junk food or whatever.
So basically certain words evoke a certain response.
Language.
Language. There we go.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah.
So I'm going back to now the question of, this is just how I talk. This is just, if you don't want to talk to me, then it's fine. This is just how I talk. I'm not going to change how I talk. Because you know, to give people that, this is how I am. This is how I talk. I'm aggressive, you know. Oh, mna ngiyamshaya usisi.
It's also the tribal part or the culture part, whereby now we're
No,
getting
but
like
also let's not say culture part, because then what we're saying is that we're problematizing culture to say it's aggressive, it's violent.
But is it not
culture?
culture?
Yes, we're stereotyping.
But we're not saying a particular culture. But remember, especially in, say, the Black community, women are supposed to be submissive, right? Like if you're being frank.
Is it
I'm
all
not talking about modernized sentence. I'm talking about like emakaya, ne? That the man is the head of the family, right? And then the man basically has the final say. And like he decides what goes on, and you don't ask a man where he's coming from.
Yeah, from the Zulu.
4 a.m. in the morning. If someone walks up at 4 a.m. in the morning, you can't carefully.
I'll speak for the Zulus and the Swatis. I know that's how
Please
it's
speak for
supposed to
yourself,
be.
ne? Because we don't want to stereotype.
We're not stereotyping, but it's a common thing and it's out there. I mean, like, it's like that. Like, when we're talking of isiZulu, sasemakhaya, we're speaking of, you know, indoda, inhloko yomuzi, and whether you disagree or you agree, the man has the final say. That's how it's supposed to be.
From someone who's from Emakaya, because I'm from North KZN Ulundi. I'm
Okay.
Zulu. So yes, but my let me say my slight issue is the overgeneralization of what we're saying about Zulu Swati people. Because now we're putting a blanket statement and then we're overlooking the Zulu men or the Swati men who are more open-minded and are more engaging and less rigid. They're more flexible, and the household is, yes, he's the head of household, because it's one thing to say, I'm head of household. It's another to say, I'm head of household, you are my wife, and but in creating that structure, it's created out of respect.
The hierarchy.
It's created out of, I respect my wife, I respect what she does and what she brings to the table, and I understand my role as a Zulu man, and it is to provide. And I'm not saying that, you know, hey, I'm going to provide because I bring in more money here. No, it's not a blanket statement for like that. Just like not everyone who's Zulu kabi. You understand?
And maybe that also takes now back to where the question started, the nature versus nature.
Yes.
And then now, why does a person find themselves speaking like that? This is how I am.
Yeah.
Because most of the time, nature, the way is mostly the dominant one, the experiences that we have.
Yes.
You understand? So nature, like with imago stands for image. The things that I see happening, I capture them. Then I find myself speaking like this. I find myself attracting these kinds of men, only to find that is because it's the image that you know that a man is supposed to be this way, or is supposed to beat me to show me they love me. If they don't, you are gonna be the one that is provoking him until because
That is wild.
that's your image.
So to feel love, someone must be beaten.
You know, there is that ideology
There
in
is.
South Africa.
Serious.
Being honest.
Yes, you can't. You are not used
As a woman,
You are not used
We're
to
not saying
peace.
it's a healthy ideology, but
No,
we're saying it
yes.
exists.
Or in the
Remember,
streets,
it's what the person is exposed to. What she's saying is
It's familiarity. So
Oh.
if you are familiar with toxicity, where your mom was insulting your dad or your dad was beating her up, most likely you're not gonna say, I want a man who's gonna beat me up, but it's in the subconscious mind. Remember, the conscious mind is just the surface, but
deeper.
it goes deeper to the subconscious mind, where you just automatically respond to these kind of men, and then you ask yourself, why am I keratabo AC?
My type.
Yeah, my type.
My type aside,
Yes,
yeah.
your type will tell you.
You can provoke me
the
all
most-
you want.
yeah.
I can never beat a woman. I'd rather just walk away. I don't know. Is it a healthy thing to do that?
Yeah.
But remember, it's like what she's saying. In psychology, we call it, Freud calls it compulsion to repeat trauma. Where your psyche
There's a what? That is, so people have the compulsion to repeat
Yes,
trauma to even themselves.
yes because the premise is not suffering in its innate base. It's not to suffer, but it is to recreate a phase in your life where you are suffering, because the idea is I'm gonna Bob the Builder, what people call Bob the Builder. I will fix him.
Yes.
Like I couldn't stop my dad from beating my mom. I couldn't stop my brother from being or whatever. Couldn't stop my boyfriend from doing it. But you get someone like Nonhlanhla is saying, we don't know what the science is, but you keep attracting a certain personality that is going to trigger this trauma, because in your mind, in your subconscious, you're trying to cure or treat these
Yes.
men.
Manje,
It's like
you
protect
as a
the
woman,
inner child, right?
Remember, also the reason for us falling in love or attracting people is so that that inner child can be freed. Because now when I'm in a relationship with you, it means I come from a family. And then it's innate in us that we need to be with someone. It's a matter of survival. If you are single, you die earlier. So the subconscious mind.
Yo, wait, hold
oh,
on.
to my friend out there.
That if you are single, guys, you
If you are alone,
If you are alone.
yes. So that's why older people, you find them with their kids or whatever, because they need to connect.
Companionship.
Yes, remember,
Companionship.
yes. So when you were born, you already had a relationship with your mom while you were in the womb.
100%.
You are born in the family, there's connection. Now, when you get to your teenagehood, your body now is preparing to get that person that now will be your final companion in a way. Then you start attracting people and whatnot. But now it's a matter of survival. This child that was wounded will be shown in that relationship. The person you love the most is the one that is going to hurt you the most.
Yeah.
Not that they are evil or what, but
not intentional.
90% of the things that you cry about or that frustrate you about the relationship, 90% is about you, and they only contribute 10%. So if I'm worried so much that my husband is not neat, he just take off his shoes wherever, it's not about him. Why can't I just also sit in my couch and say, I'll see it later? But no, it's not like that. It will trigger you. Yes, it will trigger you
It's
so
more about
much
you than them.
than them. So it will trigger you so much. Now we are busy breaking the plates, washing the pot at 12 at night, because it's about you to say.
And that's
maybe
communication, actually.
That's
You're
also
communicating
communicating-
frustration.
Exactly.
Non-verbal.
And it's passive aggressive. If someone is washing the dishes at 12 while we are sleeping and banging things,
Yes.
it's passive aggression.
And
Sure.
it says a lot about you, not about those.
But also, why are your shoes on the floor? Why
Are they actually
Not
washing
that-
the dishes
the problem is
to
not
get
the-
attention or something? Because I'm just
Why are
thinking,
your shoes on the floor?
Because when you met me, this is how I was. Where I grew up, I can leave my shoes on the floor. It was okay. Someone was picking them up after me. My last relationship, I would
as well.
leave. My girlfriends would pick up. Maybe he used to date girls who take care, who in servitude of their partners, who clean up, be tidy, and all. Even if they grow up, when their parents would just allow them to leave their stuff all over, and they will pick up. So they realize, oh, there's nothing wrong if I leave it here. It will be gone tomorrow. Miraculously somehow it is solved.
And
so it's not wrong. It's not wrong to leave the thing.
No.
there.
We're not saying
we're
it's
not
wrong.
saying it's wrong or right.
It just happened.
We are saying why does it trigger this other person so much? Why doesn't it bother her when she leaves her shoes here? Why should it be an issue with me? It means there's a wounding that I need to deal with that makes me so frustrated to pick up her shoes.
Because maybe the girl
Yes.
used to be an only girl amongst boys at home, and the boys would leave stuff, and she would always pick up, and she was frustrated because parents would never discipline the sons and her brothers.
Now it's frustrating
So
her. It's like a repetition
built up.
of And also with girls, like you remember when we were growing up, they would say, if you love yourself, we'll see you by your room. It's gonna be tidy. Waitata, everything will be neat. Now we are married. You are associating love with cleanliness and all of that. Now we have this man who's opposite to you.
She doesn't love you. Why are the
Who's just untidy and all of that. You understand? And then now you feel like it means he doesn't love me if he just leaves things like that. He doesn't value me. So that's why you get so frustrated, and then you feel like, and then when they come to help you, you are like, you're gonna make a bigger mess now. Just leave it, I'll do it myself. But now you are in a self-pity mode to say, I'm not worthy, I'm not loved. And it comes from the conception that cleanliness, it means love.
So it's not even about him.
It's not about him. That's what we are trying to say.
So my question now becomes, how do we, one, healthily then communicate that when you leave your shoes, it makes me feel unloved because but also sometimes I don't even know that I associate cleanliness
You
with.
don't know.
I don't know. So how do I then communicate the fact that I'm frustrated? Why are you leaving your shoes? Because for you, it might not be like a big deal. Like if they bother you, pick them up. No, they don't bother me, so leave them. You know what I mean? Because people fight over things like that. And people divorce over things like that. You know that, why am I always the one cooking? Or what do you bring to the table? Let's not even start that one.
No, that's a topic for another
What do you bring?
What do you bring to the table?
Yo,
That question.
that's like, no, but
Who asked? Is it the men?
Yes.
Mara, guys, history says it. Like, I mean, like, men are supposed to be providers. I'm not
Why
saying
am
those.
I bringing anything to the table I'm not invited to? I'm a guest at this table. It must be prepared.
Yes.
That's my personal opinion. It's not general and it's not off the podcast.
Well, I'm not saying let's abuse men, but I'm just saying, or like, men are supposed to be providers. Like,
Sure.
they're supposed to give. Like, I mean, in the past, kings used to fight for our fathers. You understand? So I think like people must just get that part. But then I'm not saying like when you are a woman who also brings something also into the table, and also like when relationships are contributing 50%. But then I'm just saying that it's history. It's proof that it has been like that. And also the roots of having to say mina ngindoda ngixobo. I also think it's something of the past when we're looking at culture, because it's something that used to be more like what can I say? It was more appealing like in the past, but now things are different, I guess.
I think this is such a subjective conversation. Hey, like, there's people that feel very strongly about 50-50 and very strongly about that's I'm like this needs its own episode. What do you
What
bring to
about
the
what
table?
did you guys?
I think
what did you guys pick up as
the
professionals?
phrasing of the question also, it goes back to what we're saying about language, because it's one thing to say what you bring to the table to, okay, what are your principles around a household and marriage and a relationship?
Sure.
So then it's opening up a dialogue to say, okay, this person I'm trying to have a relationship with, this is her stance around how the dynamics of the relationship should look like. Now you already know what your dynamics are, and you share your dynamics, and then in that way you share and you get to know the person you're trying to have a relationship with without necessarily insulting each other.
100%.
So in that way, it's just about phrasing, because when you say, what are you bringing to the table, it also it is invoking.
It's triggering.
It's triggering.
And also, it's on social media. You know, I know social media we shouldn't take seriously or whatnot, but there's things that are stigmatized on social media. I don't know where this whole what do you bring to the table thing comes from. Maybe it could have been a positive thing at some point. I don't know, or a negative one. But there's particular like words. Like, I know a traditional wife now is taboo. It's taboo on TikTok. Like, as soon as you say I'm a traditional wife, people are like, oh, go love yourself. But because of social media, you know, so doesn't social media also affect communication between partners?
It does.
And also, what is a traditional wife? Like,
Wellness is, which I'll get there. That one also again.
Like, I wonder, like, because then, like, I'm getting like a lot of ideas when I'm looking or thinking of a traditional wife on what it is. Like, looking at today's time, like, I'm just thinking what actually is like a traditional wife.
Cooking, cleaning,
Is it
not
that?
working, childbearing, On TikTok
Today.
anyway. On TikTok anyway. I'm talking about from TikTok. No, that's what is meant by a traditional wife. So the man brings the bacon, and the woman just takes care of the household.
Takes care of the household.
But now the money gets locked up. Only one person. There's a lot of dynamics around it. That's
The thing also again is that we are the generation that is faced with that. It was not done before. So we don't know. We are just trying to follow whatever that works for us, and here being on social media, copying what other people do or what they say. So we are still just finding our feet, because the men are also frustrated because they still want to take their positions as the heads of the family. But now if the men will also say, I want you to bring 50-50. Are you also bringing 50-50 in the kitchen? Bathing the children? Because now it seems like, yes, why do you want 50-50 if you can't?
in cereals.
I must what?
Economy.
Did you just say I must watch the babies?
Why are you not watching the babies?
Why
What babies are they?
Okay, if you are saying to me, let's sit down and share and split. I will pay for the house maybe and the car, you will pay for whatever, and then we are splitting equally. But when we come back home, why are you sitting on the couch? Because we are coming from work, both of us. We do 8 hours, both of us. Now me, I must continue, and then you are not helping me with anything. So I wonder, it's a skewed
Perception.
Yes. Why are we having 50-50 in finances, Mara?
And not in household.
But why are those things?
So it's mainly what.
But why are those
Yeah,
things?
hey.
But I think because of, again, society and culture, those things are almost assumed. You know what I mean? We don't communicate these things, because sometimes I meet someone and they're like, listen, what do you look for in a man? And I'm like, I look for this. But at the back of my mind, I'm thinking, sir, you're paying for everything. But I'm not telling him,
Yeah.
right? I'm not telling him. I'm thinking it, but I'm not telling him.
Yeah.
And then we're at a restaurant and the bill comes and he's counting the things that he's eaten. Now I'm getting upset, but I didn't communicate my expectation.
Exactly. Uncommunicated expectations
Yeah.
also play a major role in
Disappointment.
But they might be frowned
Yes.
upon. Maybe I like you and now I must tell you must pay for everything, and you're like,
Hey.
But also, what are the ground rules before you even got to the date? Okay, I'm taking you out on a date. The premise is we're going to split, because now both of you then are guilty.
assumption.
The
assume-
person who called out the date must pay
But
according
now
to
that
50
is an
cents.
assumption, because that's your perception. You go on a date with me. And in my thinking, maybe it's I'm going to pay a share, and you are thinking, oh, I'm going to take everything. And then I might get offended. Go, hi, well, do you think I'm an independent woman, or whatever my views and perceptions are as a woman, or in a blind date are? So like Uhauhel is saying, if we're saying we are going to agree to do something, all the ground rules must be set up, not this
Before
thing.
we go
Before
there.
first date.
Before we go.
A first date.
I quoted 50 Cent, by the
Before
way.
we go.
Ne?
You
To say, yeah.
Whose idea is it to pay?
Yeah, the person
Whoever's
who
idea was-
thought, the person who thought about it, the person's idea to say, let's go to Durban, they must find that.
But let's
yeah.
talk about the I can't say the word, but let's talk about it, ne? That how do we set ground rules, guys? On a first, can we talk about what a first date is? Hey, girl, do you want to go out? Thank you, let's do it. Now I say, by the way, who's paying for the date? Is that what we mean by communication? I must not have expectations, because I really assume you're going to pay for the date, but I take my card because, again, we live in South, so I can't just. Now, but obviously it will cause conflict if something happens on the date that, I didn't anticipate. But again, equally, I would assume that there's expectations on his side of, okay, so I'm taking her on the date. But also, what are the expectations that I'm physically there? That's the expectation. I'm physically in front of you.
So if you don't communicate well, you might not even get a hug as umjita. I mean, you're hoping for that hug or ish.
But I
When I get a hug today, it's our first date, it was on a hug or something like
But my
that.
question, do we
So
then
now-
communicate all of that? Like, I'm expecting a hug at the end of the date. I'm expecting you to
Not
pay for the date.
necessarily. I'm saying if it's not, if maybe the ground rules or what you were saying earlier to say, things were not communicated initially to say this is how you're gonna make it work. since we're going on this particular date. So now, because now I'm starting to now calculate for, okay, it's a 50-50 thing. And now I had that hope for the and the next thing is you know,
yeah, but I think if we over communicate, or I don't know,
it ruins the mystery.
Yes, now everything is just ruined. People are calculating everything.
Yes.
Okay, if I pay, then she has to hug me, or if we do 50-50, then he's not man enough. Something like it just brings. It needs to be a natural progress that just goes. You understand? Yeah.
But
so I don't know if there's a perfect way of doing it.
Yes. Because I was just about to add. Sometimes the problem is not what you're saying; it's how you are saying it.
Sure.
And when you are saying it.
Sure.
To then say, okay, there is some mystery. Someone says there's some element mystery has some vavavum to it or something.
Okay.
Some mystery. But what we're trying to say, what we're saying this then might be targeted for a specific group of people.
Sure.
Maybe you've been going on dates, you've left, right, and center, you're trying to find a partner and it's just not working out, and in your dating, you've realized that there are things that irk you. So then, because you already have a history and you're trying to not repeat that, okay, now I'm aware, because insight is a very important thing, because then now you then become proactive in trying to protect yourself, to be like, okay, I've been in a few dates and now you realize, okay, then I need to communicate this, because I realize then the person I'm meeting, people usually feel some type of way when I do this or I don't do this. So now you become proactive because you've learned self and you've learned problematic aspects of self that are impacting your ability in communicating and forming like healthy relationships with other people. So it's not to say every time, hey, please, Mrs. or Mr., we splitting, bring your card as well. Expect a hug or don't a hug.
And that's where now self-reflection and introspection comes.
Yeah.
Now I have been dating these people and then it's not working out. What is it that I'm doing that I can change about myself or improve the outcomes? Because for now we can't control how other people will respond to us, but we can control how we show up and do things. So self-introspection is very important.
And speaking on communication, I wanted to talk about love languages, right? Because again, very popular concept now. Where people actually go, so what are your love languages? I guess it's an actual question. But I don't know. I just wanted to know from a professional point of view, right? Is there any truth to it? Because there's very different ideologies surrounding it, that your love languages are usually as what you didn't get as a child, that if you didn't get quality time, you are looking for quality time. If no one gave you acts of service, that's what you're looking for. If you didn't get words of affirmation, that's what you're looking for. And there's also an ideology of you can't love people in your love language, you must love them in their love language. But then there's a lot of but apparently that determines again the success rate of, and relationship gurus touch a lot on these, but now we want to know about it from a professional point of view.
So I think, like you have said, it's important for you to know your partner's love language, because it's not about loving him the way he loves you. It's about you loving them the way they want to be loved, and then vice versa. So it's very important for you to be curious about your partner. What is it that they love? What is it they do maybe when they're feeling like this? That will give you a glimpse of what is it that they need. I can make an example with this other couple that I was seeing. The guy grew up in a rural, very poor, the dad was not there and so on. And then the lady, she also grew up poor, but the dad was there and they had basic needs were covered. So this guy is keep on saying to this lady, you don't care about me. Even on my birthdays, you don't buy me anything. So he wanted her to put an effort. So she would just cook a lamb stew because he likes it. Every year is the same, a lamb stew and a cake, and they sing for him. And then she was very frustrated to say, what is it that you want? Because I'm trying my best here to give you. But now she was giving him what she thought he wanted. But he actually wanted her to just buy him a gown or slippers or whatever. And then when he did, and then when they were busy talking, we discovered that this guy just wanted a brand new clothing that comes from someone else, because he was used to being given second-hand clothes, big sizes, and all of those things. So he just wanted a gift that was from someone that he really loves and cherishes, so that he can just wear a new gown that smells new. Not that he can't afford to do that for himself, but he just wanted it from his partner, because in his childhood, his dad was not there. His mother will just go and find things at the church that would be big size and all of those things. And then now they are saying when he comes back from work, it doesn't matter what time he comes back, he just rocks his gown the whole time, the whole day until evening, because he really appreciated that, because it's the child in him that needed that.
Whose responsibility is it in the communication process to bring up something like that? Do I probe and ask my partner, listen, how do you want to be loved, or what would work for you? Or is it your responsibility as my partner to say, listen, this is what I would appreciate on my birthday, this is what I would appreciate, like say after you cook, or whose responsibility is it?
I think both partners are, because you're not in a relationship by yourself to say then it's this one's responsibility. Mina, I'm just existing here. So it's both. So you have you have to be able to teach your partner how you want to be loved, and your partner should also be able to learn how you love them, because like Nonhlanhla is saying, there's beauty in understanding how your partner would like you to show up, but there's also beauty in your partner being able to recognize that when you do something, even if it's in your love language, it's you also showing love.
Sure.
So it's then a respect of both individuals in the relationship, because then we're trying to run away from, we're just now using one love language in this, we're just using this Nonhlanhla's love language in our relationship. So then what we then saying, we're losing sight into the other person's love language, because now Nonhlanhla's feeling loved,
But now this one.
Space not, because then now I have had to leave how I identify and how I show love and how I want to receive love, because it wasn't working. But then also speaks to why you're an individual. Are you trying to people please? Are you trying to fit in, or are you trying to actually build a relationship? But love is not just loving you not just me feeling loved by you doing what I see as a love language, but also honoring and recognizing when you love me the way you recognize a love language.
Sure. That is it's a very interesting one, and I think it's also a tough one, because we come from different backgrounds, right? Where I might not be able to, like you said, like if I'm a people pleaser, I might not be able to verbalize how I want to be loved, because I'm scared of hurting you or disappointing you, or you seeing me in a different way than you already see me now. And I think that also pours into conflict management, because you get people that in a conflict, they'll apologize first. Whether they're wrong or right, it doesn't matter. They'll apologize first. How then do you facilitate healthy communication in conflict, right? With different types of communication styles, in order to obviously get to a resolution of us versus the problem, as opposed to us versus each other.
Is it also like, fine, that one of, I like the fact that you mentioned both, that relationship has to do with like two people, right? So
how can people effectively communicate in order to conflict manage, right? Keeping in mind that some people communicate a particular way because of however way they grew up. Some people are people pleasers, some people always want to be right, some people apologize first. So how can people healthily communicate conflict?
Okay, so with conflict also, you need to also be mindful of your emotional state. when the conflict arises. So if I'm still very emotional and feeling hurt and angry and all of those emotions, that's not the right time for us to speak, because I'll try by all means to hurt you because I want you to feel what I am feeling. And then hurt is the most basic feeling that we get, but after that comes anger, defensiveness, and all of that, because we want to protect ourselves. So we don't want to be vulnerable. So the best way to communicate is also put yourself in a vulnerable position to say, when you do this, I feel like I'm gonna lose you. Maybe you are just suspecting your partner is cheating or something, instead of saying all accusations and everything, but you are being vulnerable to say, when you do this, this is how it makes me feel. I feel scared. I feel afraid that I might lose you. Me and the kids will not be together. That automatically brings that other person to understand that you value them. You are not trying to be a control freak. You are not a jealous girlfriend or jealous wife, but you are just concerned that I need you and I love you and I want you to be here with me. But it also comes with practice to say, can we talk? From that only to ask, to say, is it this the right time to talk? Then the respondent can say, okay, this is the right time. If it's not the right time, I get people, wake people up at 4 to say, let's talk now.
Yeah. Why are we sleeping in this house?
So the other,
because it's bothering you.
yes, it's bothering them. So the other partner still has the right to say, maybe not now. Can we talk about it?
The defendant
Yes.
has the right to say,
Yes, because now if you are forcing it to be now,
hold on. What if someone walks in at 4 a.m. and you're sitting like this?
that's
Been
not
waiting for
Red
that.
flag.
And then they say, no, I don't want to talk. So you just walked in. You don't have rights currently. You don't have rights. That's also unhealthy, hey?
because
Is
now
it safe also for someone to just wake up? I once dated someone. Honestly, like, this is something that I've experienced. I woke up, this person was staring at me. I'm telling you, is it a safe thing? What's
That's a lot,
wrong?
actually.
What's wrong with the person? It's like when I woke up, I asked the person, what's wrong? And it's like, I'm just looking at you. I'm like, why? I'm sleeping. Why is that?
Was she adoring you? Like,
yes, we need
the
to
man
know
is so handsome. Why was she staring at
She
you?
just smiled, Nje, Mara. For me,
How
it
she
was
in
weird.
love,
It was weird.
She's in love.
She just
It was
loved
weird.
the sight of you sleeping. It's so peaceful.
This one maybe
But
is
is that
plotting to
not
kill me or something like that.
like non-verbal communication? I'm just staring at you because I'm thinking,
But then-
how did I get so lucky?
on Nonhlanhla's point, what if the person is actually cheating, ne? And then would it not be something that, like, maybe you are actually giving him ideas on where to close off if they're actually cheating based on what you just said?
Okay, so I get it. If you're gonna ask the person now, when now you are cheating or you are doing whatever, maybe you are just suspecting. Most likely,
say I have proof.
okay, you
I
have
have
proof.
receipts.
Yes, most likely
Okay, with proof.
it's gonna escalate to maybe the person also being defensive, deny, even if there's proof. So that person most likely doesn't even know what you wanted to talk to them about. But even if they did, it's still okay. If they are lying, then they're lying to themselves, not to you. But anyway, so you are there saying, we need to talk. I get the person is 4 o'clock, they need to wake up and get ready. And then they're like, okay, can we talk maybe when I come back, because now I have to get ready. It's the responsibility of the respondent now to say, can we talk at this particular time? Because now I don't want to be chasing you. You said we're going to talk at 2. Now it's 2 o'clock. You're not saying anything. So you who said we can't speak now, it's your responsibility to say, now we're going to talk maybe in the afternoon when I come back from work.
And my feelings in the meantime, in that,
Then
in that 6 hours when I'm waiting.
That's the time now where you need to be conscious of what you want to say and calm down and all of those things.
Sure. The time
We are
of the
saying
day
don't
as well.
talk now, because most likely it's going to erupt into something nasty now. But that is the time for you to be cooling off, preparing yourself, how you're going to say it and things like that. And then when they come back, they are the ones who are going to say, okay, I'm back, I'm ready to talk. Are you ready? then you are the respondent now. Then you sit down, you talk. But now the problem is that people don't know the mirroring and I always say when I facilitate to say, when you go back home, they're going to say you are crazy. Why are you repeating everything that I'm saying? Because they are not there. So it's very dangerous also for a person to say they are going to therapy for their marriage alone. So I wouldn't give a person therapy by themselves while the partner is left behind.
Yeah.
Because now it's dangerous. It can even cause divorce, because now it's like, I'm this level, when you are still here, when I want to talk to you, you just jump high. You are not even asking me, you are not validating, you are not, when you know how to validate now, to mirror, to show empathy, and then this other person is just like,
No, I think you're tricking me actually. Are you tricking me?
yes, others were even saying, because when you mirror, when I say I need to speak to you, we've been coming home late these days, and then this is what I found. You mirroring just means you are repeating what I'm saying. So other people said, isn't that other person now pretending to be listening to you? You can't pretend if you know you are expected to summarize or repeat what I've just said. You're gonna be there and you're gonna listen attentively, so because you know I expect you to listen. Then you repeat that until when you keep on saying, tell me more. That shows now that you are interested in what I'm saying. I'm not dismissing you, but I'm interested. I'm busy saying, tell me more. Instead of, no, I'm not responding yet. You have accused me, and then and then you can still ask, how does it make you feel when I come back late? People are frustrated because now the dad is not in the house. We are not feeling safe. We are eating dinner alone. We are missing quality time. But when you are fighting, are you going to say all of those things?
I'm too upset.
Yes.
I'm too upset.
Exactly, because you are too upset, and then this person is just going to respond by being defensive.
Sure.
Then until you get validated, it makes sense. Now the partner will say, it makes sense that you feel this way when I'm away until 10 o'clock at night. It makes sense that you feel lonely. It makes sense that you miss me here. And then that's when now they will get their time now to defend themselves. But now it's your turn now to also mirror them.
To listen.
Yes, now they speak and then you mirror them. You also validate them and until you reach the conclusion. But no one is going to go high, because now we are there to listen. Not if it's not your turn to speak, you just mirror and validate and show empathy.
And I think to add on to that, I always say, remember, a relationship is the coming together of two people who are coming from different backgrounds, different sense of understanding, different cultures. Some are rigid, some are flexible. And I don't know when the togetherness happens and people forget that actually we are not one. We're not one thing. We're two entities who are trying to build one thing. And to build, I always say 4 things. It's time, place, intention, and tone. Because like Nonhlanhla is saying, for some people it's I'm very confrontational, whereas someone else's communication style is more avoidant. To then say, hey, just because you as the confrontational partner are ready, doesn't mean I am ready. And because this is also a partnership, it's a relationship, it has to be a conducive environment for both parties so that we achieve the optimal level of communication. I feel heard, you feel heard. So if conversations are only going to happen when the more confrontational partner initiates, and now you also have to now engage, it's unfair to the other partner, because it's then communicating that I don't recognize you and I don't recognize how you process situations in the relationship. And then it kind of then becomes one of those barriers that couples have in their marriages and their relationships, because the more avoidant partner will seem like they never want to address issues. But in most cases, it's they feeling overwhelmed because you're like, hey, we must go. But when you've been thinking, you forget, Guti, now that you are confronting it, you've been stewing on this thing for days, weeks, months. Maybe this person wasn't even aware that this was an issue. You forget you've had time to process it. And you felt, okay, now this is the time, because maybe you've riled up your emotions to a point where, which is where tone then comes in. But then now you have ignored your partner to say, my partner wasn't aware of the situation. They haven't had the time to process it. Let me make them aware that this is an issue. And then we find a time, a place, and in that point, the tone will be conducive enough for us to have a conversation. We've both had time to process. We're both aware that there's an issue. We're both aware there's something that we need to discuss. So time, place, tone, and intention. Because if as a couple you have an intention to build a relationship, yes, there'll be fights, but if always the intention is we want to build this, we accept that there will be fights, but our fights are going to be aimed at building our relationship. So if the intention is just, hey, we are here, just existing, touch and go, then your mindset is not focused on conflict resolution, on understanding your partner, on hearing your partner, on making an effort to be self-aware, do things to improve yourself. Because it's easy for us to say, "Hi, you are the problem." Maybe I'm responding to you being the problem, and we always overlook that engagements are sometimes people reacting to us, and we think they are initiating because we are blindsided into how we are coming across towards the people as well. So which is why, like Nonhlanhla is saying, couples coming in together, because then in therapy we see the dynamics in relationships that people are not aware of. Because even from how I come in and I sit there, I sit here, it says something about what this relationship, where this relationship is on a health basis, on a communication base. Even the body language, you're gonna sit and I'm gonna face like this away from my partner, or I'm gonna face like this. How you sit, how I see you when I come to collect you from the reception area is gonna already giving me insight as to, okay, you're sitting over there. Yeah. Then it's all of those factors that we need to then factor in. Be conscious of self, be conscious of your partner, and out of respect, be able to learn. If the intent is to build, nothing is unfixable. You just both have to have the intention to want to build a relationship and learn and unlearn.
Is it wrong to keep the space? Because then I know, like, a lot of guys, when it comes to what you said, the love language, the physical touch, because then physical touch can be over expected, because there's person who would want you to hold them.
Remember, physical touch doesn't mean I need to be on your lap 24/7.
There's partners.
Hold my hand when we in public.
But then there's partners who would expect to be, physical everywhere, regardless of the social setup. You understand? What do you guys have to say about the over use of
balance?
This love
goes back to balance as a relationship,
and communication.
Because remember, it's not just about you, it's about us. Love language is not my biggest thing, but I know that maybe me just sitting here and touching, it's and then you communicate with your partner that it's maybe number 5, it's there at the bottom, it's scraping, but the best I can do so that you feel loved also is I can do this. I don't want to sit on your lap, or hey, I don't want to say must groove, hey, I'm kissing.
Yeah, there's that.
But you negotiate because it's out of respect. You respect your partner. You respect their limits. Because just because you are together now doesn't mean suddenly boundaries are outside the door and this person doesn't have things they have to be comfortable with everything. No. You have to respect.
Is it wrong for a guy just not to be comfortable to do this physical touch in public, but they are comfortable to do the physical touch in your own private space? It's just a question from guys out there.
To avoid generalizing, it's you, like I said, negotiate with your partner. Say, my partner, it's okay, from my head to my toes when we're in our private space. But outside of this, maybe it's a cultural thing. It's we are together. Now most people can see we arrived together.
Obvious.
You sitting next to me.
Is it obvious? Or is there someone there that you don't want to see us holding hands?
I think
Public. I'm talking for the general public. Why are you comfortable in the house, but why are you not comfortable out there? Is there someone out there
Maybe it's a cultural thing.
Back now to
Maybe it's a cultural thing.
And
Yeah,
it
maybe
also
it's a
But you must tell me.
It comes back now to your childhood wounding. Why do you need to be recognized in public and all of those things? So most likely you're gonna attract the person that will be opposite to you. You go through the same wounding stages or the developmental stages where the wounding is gonna happen, but develops a coping mechanism of withdrawing. To say, I just want to be myself, I want to come back home and play my music. Then the partner, and she's clingy, she wants you to hold her, she wants you to just arrive and throw things and then come and sit next to her and all of those things. So it comes back to what you were saying, to say the balance, to say now, I want you to be at your best. Now, if I want you holding me 24 hours and then you are grumpy, how does it help? But I can give you your space to say, when you come back from work, you say you want your time watching soccer, and then we can even communicate with the kids. When daddy comes back, let's give him an hour. So that even when he's done, he can come back and be fully present with you and now hold you in the couch and do all the affectionate stuff with you. But now if you're gonna force him to be here, it's gonna annoy him, because now he also has a coping mechanism.
Yeah.
Maybe his parents were too protective on him. You can't go, you can't do this, you can't explore. So now finally he's breathing, and then you are coming, you are his mother again. You can't do this, you can't do that, you have to hold me. You understand? And then it frustrates him more and more, and it also frustrates you because now you are chasing, he's just busy running around.
And the guys in the room are going, ish.
Hey,
Yo. Okay, so one thing that I'm very curious about, right? Are there couples that are just not compatible communication-wise? They must just call it a day, or they must seek help, or you know what I mean? Because sometimes we really just not hearing each other, and we end up damaging each other, and we break up anyway. So are the couples that are just not compatible? Is it something that can always be fixed? Communication, that is.
It's fixed if you want it to be fixed.
So there's always hope.
If you want it to be fixed. So I might be in a relationship with you, and our biggest issue might be communication. And we fight and we just like, child. Everyone must go their separate ways. And I meet Ace. We have issues, but because I feel a certain way about Ace, and I have different intentions with the Ace that are directed at building something. You put in the work. You put in the work. Relationships are not, you're not going to wake up to a partner who's your perfect match. Like Unoja was saying, more often than not, you marry someone who's your opposite, who's going to test your buttons, who's going to try you, who's going to push you, who's going to challenge you. But then you can't grow outside of these things anyway. In any environment, you need to learn that there is something different besides how you see life. You need always a new view, a new perception on how to face issues, how to face challenges, how to show love, how to receive love. But then which goes back to what we're saying, then if me and you my intentions with you are never to build anything, I'm never going to work on myself. I'm never going to give you the effort of doing something differently.
So in terms of communication, right? In a marriage, in a relationship, when is it time to call it? Maybe it's now becoming toxic to me, it's becoming dangerous. What are the signs of knowing, you know what? This is becoming dangerous. It's starting to affect my mental and emotional well-being. Is it a thing also? Maybe it's not. Maybe it's not a thing. But because sometimes someone's way of communicating with us really harms us. It's starting to now become dangerous to us.
Yeah.
So, or it's traumatizing us. It's causing trauma, and it's triggering us to a point where now we're starting to get depressed a lot, or we're getting anxious. Or so, when is it time to call it? Or do we just begazela and bangelela and just yeah. Honestly, like the whole begazela notion is so romanticized. Oh, a loyal woman or a loyal man. Oh,
What
maybe,
a gem.
Yeah, maybe it also goes back to what you have said, to say, how are we now putting in the work? But as much as we may sound like we are saying a person should be mara, there are some limits where you know, for if a person is gonna physically assault me, if they're gonna insult me, those are the basic things that you expect: to be respected, to be loved, to have good communication. Mara, there's somewhere now where you can see or know the boundaries now. If I don't either strengthen them or leave this relationship, most likely I'm gonna end up dying physically or in whatever way. Ne? So also coming back to the one that you were talking about, to say now when the communication is not happening, I move on. When is the time to move on? So most likely the person that you love the most, you are also going to fight with them a lot. So when you are in the honeymoon stage, it's all fun. You don't know this person. You are just as good as Nonhlanhla Boyce somewhere. Because you are...
It's what they show us in the movies.
Yes,
right?
you are.
They make it so perfect.
Yes, you are so, in a way, a bit high, because you also see this person as a perfect person. Also, studies show that when you are in love, when you are still in the honeymoon phase, you see colors are bright.
That is nice.
It's the perfect time to learn a new language. Like you are just someone, but now it's not natural for us to stay in that state.
Is it not natural?
No.
Yo.
We
So
need
you're not-
Denial.
Denial of what? I want to be happy. I want to be happy.
No,
I love it.
no. You have to also get to a point where you consciously commit. Remember now, your subconscious mind just wants someone to be with, because of what I said earlier, to say when you are lonely. So the subconscious mind is about surviving. Now I got this person. But immediately it senses a sort of commitment, marriage, engagement, children. That's when you start gonna see the real ex, to say, no man, he's not as respectful, he's demanding, he's what. So that's the power struggle. Now you are pulling, you want me to be like you, I'm pulling, I want you to be like me. But many people fail there, to say, now I want to go back to honeymoon.
So is it right, sorry to disturb, is it right or fair to say that people who don't want commitment, they are just enjoying the honeymoon stage?
Because they want to stay in that stage. Yes. So that's where relationships most of the time they break, because now the real work needs to start, because now it's intimacy. It's no longer about what you can show me, the flowers that you can send to me at work. Now we are saying, into me, see. Now I want to see you.
Oh, that intimacy into me.
See. Yes, but sometimes we don't like what we see, because no one is perfect. They also don't like what they see. But then now, because we want to go back there, you break up, and then you find another honeymoon stage. You're still gonna come back to the power struggle. There's no way of escaping it, because that is the foundation of the marriage. But if you stick to it and then you come to commitment, to say, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I don't like, we can work on it, this I can live with, and then you decide now to commit with this person. And then you come to conscious love now, to say, we are dancing, I know your wounds, I know your triggers, you know me, I know you. So other people, either they are stuck in the power struggle, where now they are like, whatever, we live in one house but parallel, because what are people gonna say if I divorce? I'm gonna go back home, my children. So having 50 years of marriage is not really impressive. It's about the quality, then, and how long you're gonna stay in this power struggle. So the sooner you move on to the commitment and the conscious love. Now it's like you are back to when you reach the conscious love, which is the real love. Now you are loving me, not what I'm presenting, what you are expecting. And then that's when now the real love now comes to life. And then we go back to the honeymoon stage, consciously so, to say, I will buy you flowers because you're my wife and I love you. Not because I'm crazy, because the feeling is, you do it whether you feel it or not. I want to love my wife. Every day you wake up and decide,
Be intentional
she
about
did this
it.
to me, but I will still love this person. Every day you decide.
Even when you
everything.
speak to your friends, you're like, Nonhlanhla,
Exactly. Yes, you are learning conscious love.
You compare, you go home and you love your person.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because now you understand who's this person is.
I guess
And you
it's
are
all
loving
about
them.
the constant growth and the learning.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
remember,
it's not
everyone
supposed to be a
thinks
honeymoon or perfect, right?
Yeah. Because honeymoon phase is last pill. Essentially, it's just the
Yes.
hormones raging.
Raging,
Oh,
yes.
I've met this person. Hey, hormones are. Hey.
Humans are dangerous.
Because, and when the senses come back, it's like, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why I was saying you can't stay in the honeymoon state because your
forever.
hormones are just not balanced. So imagine if you are just in that state for the rest of your life. People would even resign from work to say we have to spend the whole day together.
So with honeymoon, would you
Yes.
compare it or relate it? What do you guys have to say about the rebound? Is it also because remember when people break up?
Oh yes.
Yeah, what happens with that part when two people separate and then they are quickly to move on? Like I don't know, what do you guys have to say? around
Avoidance.
that? Is it the rebound particularly?
From a layman, avoidance. You are avoiding the pain. Go sit with the pain there. Go sit.
So you must sit with the
Go
pain.
sit with the pain and heal.
So what's that? There's a movie, an author who says pain demands to be felt.
Ooh, Fault in Our Stars. Love it.
Because you not sitting with this feeling is you not giving yourself time to understand and process so that you don't repeat it.
Ooh.
Because if when are you going to keep running away from uncomfortable emotions, it's going to go back to that thing of you're never going to want to commit the moment things become uncomfortable, because you can't even sit with your own uncomfortable feelings in your own uncomfortable space to say, I am angry, I am sad, I am hurt. You must sit with it and understand I am hurt because in this relationship, this and this happened. The communication wasn't bad. Quality time wasn't good. The way this person was interacting with me, with my friends, with my family, I didn't like it because it didn't say to me this person was intentional about me, that this person loved me. So it becomes sit with it, because in the next relationship you'll be able to then teach your partner to be like, things like this are triggers for me because they say to me that you are not committed into this relationship, that you don't love me. Because then now why, like we say, you have to be reflective self, because this thing of trying to change people, which is, we think it's easier. Oh, I'm not going to change. He has to change. She has to change. I'm stubborn, so it is what it is. We're not going to get anywhere with that mentality, especially if we're trying to build. Because now what that is saying is, I don't want to do the work in me because it's difficult. So I'm going to change you so that I don't have to
I'll help you
change.
do the work.
You do the work for us. I mean, I'm fine.
Love us. It's love me
It's
enough for the
denial.
both of us.
Denial is not healthy in any form of human existence, because what you're saying is, I'm going to stay in this infatuated phase of whatever I deem is happy and comfortable for me. Doesn't necessarily mean it's healthy, but hey, there's the devil I know.
Yay, that's another phase.
But I guess, sorry.
So no, but also what happens when I've communicated something over and over and over again, and this person is clearly not listening to me, all right? What then?
I think
Like my partner, I'm telling my partner, I don't like it when you leave your shoes there. I know that's but I know people fight over big things. I don't like it when you let your mother talk to me like that. And it's something that continues to a point where I feel like I don't want to do this anymore. I feel disrespected. You're not hearing me. So what are we doing?
boundaries and goals. What was your goal for this relationship?
Umshado.
I'm sorry.
But then now, how are you building it? What does it look like? What does umshado? Because when we tell patients set goals, they will say things like umshado, but before we get to umshado, no, but before we get to umshado, you've left the small steps, the short-term steps of, okay, before we get to umshado, we need to work on our communication. We need to work on how we spend quality time. We need to be in agreement. Are we having 5 kids? Are we having 2 kids? Are we having no kids? We need to get into an agreement as to culturally, we're coming from different cultures. This is what your culture does. This is what my culture does. But we have to respect each other in the things we do. So you understand? So umshado is just there.
Long-term goal.
It's the end. It's the the small steps you take
Building up to that
big goal that you aiming for. But then those goals mean you have to have boundaries as an individual, which speaks to, okay, I don't like this because it hurts me. And if someone is continuously doing something that hurts you, what they're communicating something to you. I don't respect you. I don't value you. You are the problem. Clearly, why are you getting hurt about small and things of me just leaving my shoes? You know. Then to go back to your question, is there time to be like, hey, it's a child? It's unfortunately for most people, they get to a point where they're emotionally exhausted before they leave. They get to a point where they feel like, as in, I've been depleted. I can't anymore before they leave an abusive relationship. Remember, abuse is not just physical, it's emotional as well. So things like disregarding your partner's emotions, disregarding the feedback they're giving you, because when your partner says, you are hurting me, it should click something to your partner to say, I need to do something differently because I value this person, I respect this person, I love this person, I want to build something with this person. And when they're not doing things that speak to that, then we need to get to a point where we're reflecting, do I want to stay in a relationship where I don't feel loved, I don't feel respected, I don't feel valued? How, if we have kids, who my kids then experience the same abuse, do I want my kids to then grow up also with a partner that is not emotionally available to them, who's not going to care, who's not going to be, XYZ that I want to see in a umshado?
Yeah. So, habits, ne? Let's just say, leaving my shoe everywhere. It's a habit, and I communicate to say, you know what, like I try to actually get rid of the habit, but hey, Gunzi,
you're not
you
being
understand?
intentional.
And then it means I'm not being intentional. And then what if I try, but other days I forget, but I'm in the process and I do communicate to say, you know what, I'm trying to actually get rid of this habit. It's difficult for me. Is it
patience?
Yeah.
Then
Now,
patience
yes,
comes in.
from the other partner, yes.
Yeah.
To say, I can see you are trying and I'm willing to
help you.
go with you until you get to
Get
a point
rid of the
where,
habit.
yes.
Yeah, even though that particular habit it's emotionally straining.
But if
to
you
as a-
know each other, that's when we were saying the conscious, when you get to the conscious love to say, I know this is a habit. We are not saying you leave your clothes here because you don't love me or because you disrespect me. It's a matter of habit. That's when communication now also comes back to say it's a habit, but I'm working on it. Because even in my side, there would be things you don't like, and then I'll be willing to be working on them. But the patience also in the process.
Sure. I think this is one of those episodes that need a part 2 and a part 3,
Definitely.
because I think relationships are such a big part of our everyday lives. We have I think Maslow is the one that says that we have a need to belong. It's part of his hierarchy of needs. But unfortunately, we're out of time. But thank you so much for both being here. I just want to ask, where can people find you? If they want to consult, if they want to just get a bit of clarity, bring their partner in, where can they find both of you?
Okay, I'm based in Rustenburg. I'm also running a private practice. It's in Rustenburg, von Veilig Street, and then our contact numbers is 073-416-1509. I also have Instagram. It's Nonhlanhla Tshinyani, Instagram and Facebook. And then on TikTok, it's honest.moments. The name of my practice is Honest Moments.
Oh, nice. We'll put it up.
We love us independent women. Yes. So you guys know where to find Nonhlanhla. Like I said, we love us independent, hardworking women. And Spare, where can we find you?
My practice is at Louis Pasteur Medical Center, office 1016. Our office number is 076-122-8682. And our website is www.mindworks.co.za. So Mindworks is in MYNDWORKS. Okay. Louis Pasteur is based in Pretoria, and that's where you'll find us.
And guys, listen, it is never too late to take your person to a psychologist or a social worker, okay? Because there's always work to be done. And are they just not lovely and beautiful? This was such an amazing time. And from myself and the team, it's goodbye.
Ding.